Okay, Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. We are on our final stretch of the third chapter of Masechet Berachot. I believe, if Hashem, we have Siyata D'Shmaya, I believe we will conclude the third chapter tonight, Be'ezrat Hashem. Let's do it. There's no time to waste because we have ambitious goals. We want to complete the chapter tonight. So let's go. If you may recall, the last couple weeks we've been speaking about praying and saying Shema in and around the bathroom. And if someone goes to the bathroom and sort of in a graf shel re'i, it's a pail in which it's contained. We spoke about if it's covered, like a catheter we spoke about, or if it's covered in some sort of glass. If there's erva, if there's some sort of nakedness in some sort of glass. So we spoke about all of these concepts. And what we had spoken about last week, and that's where we're going to pick up from now. Let's say someone has some sort of a pail that they went to the bathroom in. Think someone is sick or whatever it is, and they can't get up to go to the bathroom, so they go in some sort of a pail. And now they want to pray in that room. So we had spoken about what happens if it's in front of the bed or behind the bed. If it's behind the bed, the idea is that the bed is going to serve as a mechitza, as a divider. It's almost making it like a different room. And if it's a different room, then you'd be allowed to pray. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about someone went to the bathroom in a pail, and they're putting it under their bed. Is that enough of a cover or not? What do you guys think? Okay, someone went to the bathroom. Andy gave us the example of the Snapple bottle, or let's say something else. Someone goes into the bathroom. There's a dirty diaper. They put it underneath the bed. Is that enough of a separation that now they can go ahead and pray? It's in the room, but it's underneath the bed. What do you think?
That is a sufficient separation.
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and see it. Gabriel, we are planning to complete the parak tonight. So that's our ambitious goals. Let's go. Sharing screen. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef tells us. So this, if you're looking in the art scroll, it's in 25B5 in the paragraph on the left column, 25B5, left column. Rav Yosef is going to ask us the question. Amar Rav Yosef, Ba'a minei Rav Huna. Rav Yosef asked from Rav Huna, Mita pachot mishlosha. Let's say there is a bed that is within 3 tefachim of the ground. And 3 tefachim, we said that there's a span of how much a tefach is. According to Rav Chaim Naeh, it's 8 centimeters. We said according to Chazon Ish, it's 9.6 centimeters. Rav Moshe Feinstein somewhere in the middle. But let's go right now, let's just go with 8 centimeters. So let's say there's a bed that's pretty low, so that the space between the ground and the bed is less than 3 tefachim, so less than 24 centimeters. You know what I mean? There's some beds that have like, what's it called when you put on a frame? A loft. So it's like it's higher up. Sometimes it's higher up. You need like a step stool to even get up there. Sometimes it's like more flat on the ground. Like a toddler bed, for example, would be closer to the ground so the kid could get on and off. So I think we're talking about a bed frame, because we're going to talk about how high it is off the ground. So, and there's space to put the excrement underneath it. So let's say the bed is pachot mishlosha, is less than 3 tefachim off the ground. So let's say it's like 20 centimeters off the ground. There's very, very little space underneath. Pshitali de kilavut dami. Then it's obvious to me that if you put the excrement underneath the bed, that's sufficient of a divider. Why? Because you have a concept called lavud. Is anyone familiar with the concept of lavud? It's something we use during Sukkot. If anyone is familiar with the strings that we put around the sukkah, here's the concept. When it comes to laws of mechitza, of walls, there's a halakha l'mishem Sinai, there's a rule that says that if you have a wall that goes to within 3 tefachim of the ground, within 24 centimeters of the ground, then it's viewed as though it's fully sealed. This is a halachic mechanism, that if you have something that you have a wall that, let's say there's a gap on the floor, wall and then gap. If the gap is less than 3 tefachim, halachically it's viewed as though there's solid wall all the way down. And that's why what you'll see with the sukkahs, sometimes in the sukkot, you'll see that they have strings. They're called lavud strings, or lavud, because lavud is this mechanism that less than 3 tefachim, it's viewed as solid. So if you have strings that are within 3 tefachim of the ground, and then another string less than 3 tefachim above that, and another string less than 3 tefachim above that, what ends up happening is that it's viewed as though there's solid wall here. So we do that because the wall of the sukkah shouldn't be flimsy and shouldn't be moving around, swaying so much. And when there's a canvas wall, the thing is moving around from left to right, it's an issue. But if you put the strings, it's like your halachic wall. So in this case, Rav Yosef says, let's say the bed is less than 3 tefachim from the ground. I know that's insufficient because it's going to be viewed as though there's a wall there. So imagine I'm praying here in front of me. There's a bed. The bed is within 3 tefachim of the ground. I put the excrement under the bed. This gets sealed off. There's a wall here. So he says, I know that's going to be fine. Even if it's wide open, as long as it's less than 3 tefachim, then halachically there's this halachic tool that's called lavud that says even though there's no wall here, there's a gap, since it's within 3 tefachim, it's viewed as though it's like topping you off. You know, if you have a wall that's up to here, there's gap. Up to here is gap. But once you get it within here, it's like, all right, you're close enough that it's viewed as though it's closed. Okay, so he says less than 3 tefachim or 3 tefachim, I know it's fine. Shlosha, but if it's more than 3 tefachim, or arba'a, chamisha, shisha, shiv'a, shmona, tish'a, if it's anywhere between 3 and 9 tefachim, mahu. What's the rule then? Now, the implication is that once it gets to 10, there's going to be a different rule. But in the meantime, he could have just simply said between 3 and 9, but I guess he wanted to make his question more dramatic. You know, sometimes you want to say, I'm going to win not 1, not 2, not 3. All right? This is what you want to say. If you're at 4 tvachim, 5 tvachim, 6 tvachim, 7 tvachim, 8 tvachim, 9 tvachim, what's the question? What's the answer? Is that okay? He answers, Amar leh, he answers, lo yadana. I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer is. But then going back to posing the question, asara vaday lo mibayle. When it comes to if there's a gap of 10, then for sure I don't even have a question. Which means, let's say you have a bed that's 10 tefachim off the ground. How much is 10 tefachim? I wanted to bring my measuring tape. Any centimeters. What's the height of this table?
It's like 2 feet, 9 inches.
2 feet, almost 3 feet. Almost 3 feet. Almost 3, a little bit less than 3 feet. Okay, so you imagine you have a bed that's like this. That's like high up. It's an elevated bed. And you put something underneath this, it's like, look, there's barely any covering. You could fully see everything. So once you reach 10 tefachim, for sure, this is in its, the bed is in its own domain. This is not halachically, it's not connected to the ground at all. So that you can't say it's getting closed off. If it's less than 3 tefachim, you say it's closed off. 10 tefachim or more, it's definitely not closed off. And if you put excrement under there, it's wide open. You cannot pray there. The question is, what happens if I'm 4 tefachim off the ground and I put this underneath the bed? Can you view it in that case that it's getting sealed off? That's the question. So he says, I'm not sure. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Shapir avat delo ibaye lacha. Abaye comments on Rav Yosef's statement that if it's 10 tefachim or more, there's no question it's a problem. Abaye says, I agree with you. It's a good thing you didn't have that question. Kol asara reshuta achariti. Because if you're at 10 tefachim, this bed is in its own domain. It's not connected to the ground halachically at all. If you have a bed that's 10 tefachim high, that's in its own domain. So if you put something underneath the bed, it's like a completely different area. Okay, so that's the question. You guys got the question? We have 3 types of beds. One bed that's less than 3 tefachim off the ground. If you put excrement under there, Rav Yosef says, since it's so close to the ground, it's viewed as though it's sealed, and you're fine. If the bed is more than 10 tefachim off the ground, this is so high off the ground that it's not connected to the ground. If you put excrement underneath the bed, it's right in front of you. You cannot pray there. The question that Rav Yosef has, is what happens if it's between 3 and 9 or 3 and 10, if it's not including the endpoints. Okay? So, Amar Rava said, since they didn't know the answer, this is going to be the halacha. Hilcheta, the law is as follows. Pachot mishlosha kilavud dami. If it's less than 3 tefachim, then we view it as though it's lavud, which means it's connected to the ground, in which case, putting excrement under there, it's considered like a separate entity. separate area. Asara Rishuta Achariti, if it's 10 Tvachim or up, it's its own separate entity, which means you putting something under it doesn't help. Mishlosha Ad Asara, from 3 to 10, Hainu Deba'a Mine Rav Yosef Mi Rav Huna, that was the case that Rav Yosef asked Rav Huna, Velo Pashatle, and he didn't have an answer. So that's his answer. His answer is, we don't know. That we don't know what the rule is in that case, in which case you have to be strict. Amar Rav says, Rav is going to say, no, I'll tell you what the halacha is. Halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The law is like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. If you remember, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar told us that in a home, even if it's 150 amot away, a home is all viewed as though arba amot. So if you have excrement out there in a home, it doesn't matter. Getting far away from it doesn't help. Indoors, excrement is going to be a problem. You need to separate it. V'chen amar Bali amar Rabbi Yaakov Brad bat Shmuel halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar v'Rava amar en halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. In this question of if it, let's say, and I believe this is talking about if it's in front of the bed. We're talking about if it's in front of the bed and you want to separate yourself from it. According to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, there's no distance that's sufficient within a house. Outside, 4 amot is enough. Inside, it's all viewed together, and that's how it's a machloket about how we hold like. Okay, let me just see that. Let me just see what they say. Okay, Amarav Halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who says that Shema may not be recited in the entire house if an exposed chamber pot is present. The entire house is going to be problematic, but Rava says the law is not like him. It would not be a problem. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going. We are now going to shift gears. We're going to talk about something else. We're going to be talking about, it says what we were just talking about is praying or saying Shema while there's a chamber of excrement in there. Now let's talk about this. For the married folk in the room, and for the Be'ezrat Hashem soon to be married folk in the room, there's halachot about having relations, being with one's wife, a man and being together with his wife. They cannot be together if there's a Sefer Torah there. If you have a Sefer Torah in the room. Now, why would that ever happen? I don't know. Let's say, for example, you're going on a vacation hotel and you're bringing the Sefer Torah for the minyan and it's in your room. Or whatever it is. Let's say, I guess you could potentially ask the same question by tefillin. If you have your tefillin, and we said you go to a hotel and a person puts his tefillin right next to his bed and his wife is there. Is that a problem or not? So now this is what we're going to talk about. Once you're talking about bathroom excrement in your house, now we're going to talking about having a Sefer Torah in your house, and what are the laws with respect to having relations. Here we go. But it's such an interesting way of introducing this question. The question is as follows: Rav Achai iyasek le livrei be Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta. So Rav Achai did chastegari for his son. Rav Achai, for his son, went to the home of Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta and got their daughter. In other words, Rav Achai's son is getting married to Rav Yitzchak's daughter. Okay? Then it's time for the wedding, they get married. After the chuppah, they go to their home to consummate the marriage, to have relations. V'lo hava mistaya milta. And it wasn't successful. He wasn't able to perform that night. He wasn't able to consummate his marriage, having relations. So I don't know why he went and he told his dad this, but it seems like the next thing that happened is he went to his dad, and then his dad said, "It's impossible, not my son. There's no way. There must have been something that prevented you from doing it." So Azal Batre La'ayone. So he went to the bedroom to figure out what was going on. Now, by the way, I'll just mention that it's not uncommon for others to say this. Put the context. It's not uncommon for the couple to not consummate their marriage on the wedding night. The reason it's not uncommon is because for many couples, it's their first time, and there's a lot of nerves. Not to mention that it's been a long wedding, it's been a long night, dancing until 1 a.m. By the time they get back to wherever it is, it's 3 a.m. They're both exhausted, and it's not uncommon that they don't consummate the marriage that night. I actually heard Rabbi Leibowitz in his shir saying that he's a chatan teacher, and he says it's more than 50% of the time, which is crazy. If that's really what it is, I don't have statistics on this yet. I haven't measured it. I definitely haven't examined any rooms afterwards. But it's more than 50% or whatever it is. It's not uncommon. But in this situation, for whatever the reason, it seems like that he went and the father knew, and the father said there has to be some sort of a reason why. I don't know why, but he knew. So what happened? He's gonna go to the room to check it out. There's something wrong with the room. So he goes to the room. So he sees there's a separate Torah in the room. Oh, it seems like, I don't know, maybe there was a wedding gift. One of the wedding gifts, someone gave the couple of separate Torah. It's funny, when I got married, someone gave me a mezuzah as a wedding gift. Someone gave me a scroll of mezuzah, which I'm sure costs some money, but it's definitely not the cost of a Sefer Torah. So someone gave him a Sefer Torah, and it was in the bedroom. So he comes to the bedroom, the dad comes to the bedroom and says, now I know why you weren't able to consummate your marriage. Why? Because it's a problem. Amar lahu, so he says to the family, if I wouldn't have come check this out, you would have been putting my son's life in danger. It seems like maybe the Arus's family, they chinned the house. What do you call it? When they furnished the home, they put the furniture in the home, they prepared the room, they put the gifts there, and then the girl's family put a sefer Torah in the room. So he comes in after he sees what's going on, and he goes to the family and says, if I want to go check that out, you would have been risking my son's life if he would have actually had relations there, the Tanya, because the Braita says, Bait sheyesh bo sefer Torah, a room that has a sefer Torah, or tefillin, or a pair of tefillin, asur leshamesh bo et hamita, one is not allowed to have relations in that room, ad sheyotziem, until they take it out of the room, or shiyanichem keli betoch keli. Remove it, or at the very least, place it in a covering within a covering, a double covering. And we spoke about this concept of double covering, where people talk about it in different contexts. This is the context. Having relations in front of, in the same room as one's tefillin, it has to be a double covering. Okay? 1 second, I'll come to you. Amar Rabbi, and Rabbi says this double covering, lo shanu ele bechli she'eno kilyan. It only works if it's a covering that's not designated for tefillin. Aval bechli shu kilyan. But a covering that is designated for this purpose. For example, you have the case, and then after the case, you have another tefillin bag. This is all designated for tefillin. Afilu asara maneh kichad maneh damu. Even 10 is like one if it's designated for the purpose of this, and therefore it's a problem. So in a situation where someone is, it's in their bedroom, they would have to have one covering that is for the tefillin and a second covering that's not usual. It could be a plastic bag. It could be a towel. It could be a blanket. It could be a shirt. It could be inside the suitcase. It could be anything like that. So I'm thinking about, like, if someone goes to a hotel, the tefillin, put it in the drawer. It could be in the drawer. They have drawers there in the hotel. Yeah, next to the Gideon's Bible. Yeah, exactly. Take the Gideon's Bible out and put the real tefillin in there. Yeah. So, but it cannot be out there while they're having relations. Okay, there's more to it, but questions. Go ahead.
Ask. Bring open house or the our school translates, it says in a house. It doesn't actually say house. It says like where you sleep.
Yeah.
So it might be talking about just the bedroom.
Yes, it's talking about, it says bayit, it really means a room. Oh, it's a good question about whether distance matters. In this case, the assumption is that distance does not matter.
So it's saying I didn't ask previously, but when it says meant for that purpose, like obviously your tefillin bag is meant to hold your tefillin, but for most people, when they're getting their talit bag, they're planning on having their tefillin bag in there. Does it count as like being made to contain it?
The talit bag, yeah, you're asking a good question. If you take your tefillin bag and you put it within your talit bag, the talit bag is not really meant for the tefillin. Is that allowed? Good question. I've always viewed it as you should put something else. Like your talit bag is meant to house your tefillin. I mean, that's what it is. They make it big enough, not just for a talit. They make it big enough for a tefillin also. So I always view it as though that's meant for tefillin. And you should put, like I said, like a towel or a blanket or a shirt or a suitcase or something. Again, in one's home, typically there's another room. But in a hotel room where they only get one room, what should you do? You should put your tefillin somewhere else. Yes, Tomer, question. But it's a good question. Maybe it's okay because the talit bag is not a tefillin bag. But I think like that's how the talit bag is made to put the tefillin in it also. It's a good question. I don't have the answer to that question. Then you're next.
The double one can be okay,
Well, right now, we're not talking about a bathroom.
In sexual, there's on this intimacy, or so there's more strictness.
Correct. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like there's a bigger issue for a couple having relations in front of their tefillin. And we actually did mention this. Remember, we spoke about it was two daf ago where there was an opinion that said you're allowed to put your head on top of the tefillin and sleep on the tefillin, but opposite your head. And there was actually a rabbi that went and he told his student, I forgot who it was, told his student, go get my tefillin, knowing that he's going to go into the bedroom and see that it was under his bed. And also it happened to be, this student knew that it was mikveh night last night, which I don't know why he knew that, but he went and he told his student that, hey, go look where, and then you went and you saw that he went and he picked up the tefillin from within the pillowcase. So that's the second covering. The pillowcase is the second. So it's the tefillin within the pillowcase on their bed, and they did that to protect it from others. So yes, there's this requirement of kli b'toch kli when it comes to having relations. Now it's very interesting, and the Gemara speaks about Sefer Torah and tefillin in the same breath. There's one opinion that say it's the same rule. There's another opinion that says no, Sefer Torah is more strict, and Sefer Torah, no matter what, you're never allowed to have relations in that room. There is an opinion that says that halachically. There's different opinions. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So you're asking, what about a closet door, a cabinet, a drawer? So that's going to be viewed as a separate room altogether. But what about, here's an interesting thing. What about if it's a closet without a door?
Clear,
just a shelf or a clear cabinet?
the safe.
The safe is pretty, I mean, if there's no door on the safe, it's not so safe. But yeah, but let's say, is that real? Yeah, that's fake though. It's not a real separate. Oh, okay. In their bedroom. Travel. Yeah, okay, all right. Very good question. Excellent question. Now, okay, I like where you're going with this. Your question is, the Braita told us Sefer Torah and Tefillin. What about Chumash? What about a Gemara? Is this applying to everything of Kiddusha? Okay.
Yes, fine, better.
Okay, so that's this question. That's exactly this topic. And the answer is that you need to be strict for this purpose. Let's go ahead. I'm going to show you a footnote. First, let's finish this one line that has to do with the cabinets. And then we're going to see the opinions, okay? So, Amar Rava. Rava says in the last two words, the last three words of Chafei Amud Bet, Glima akam tera kichli b'toch kli dami. If a person has a cloak or a blanket, some sort of fabric, on top of a chest, which on top of a cabinet, it's like a kli b'toch kli. So this is Adam's question. If you have a cabinet that doesn't have doors, you put it in there. We're talking about bare tefillin. You take bare tefillin and put it on your shelf, and then you drape a cloth over it. He's telling us that's considered a kli b'toch kli. That's considered enough of a covering. And that's why what should happen is a person, if they have a tefillin in their room, you should put it in a drawer. You should put it in a drawer, and it's simple as that. And no, here what we're saying is even if you're putting it on a shelf and you cover it, that's sufficient. The question is that you guys are asking, beautiful question, what about Sfarim? Let's finish the topic in the Gemara, which is we have just one more line, one more section. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Sefer Torah, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is going to be strict. He says when it comes to Sefer Torah, a kli b'toch kli is not enough. Sefer Torah tzarich la'asot lo mechitza asara. You need to have an entire wall you need a wall divider. You can't just put it in a bag within a bag. It needs to be fully divided by a wall that is asara. What does asara mean? 10. 10 what? 10 tefachim, which means 80 centimeters up, or 1 meter up. Mor Zutra iklai lebe Rav Ashi. Once Mor Zutra visited Rav Ashi, Chazia leduchte de Mor Rav Ashi, and he went into Rav Ashi's son's bedroom. I imagine, I don't know, maybe they're sleeping over, and then he goes into the son's room, and he goes there, the Manach Be Sefer Torah, he sees that there's a Sefer Torah in Mor Rav Ashi's bedroom, there's a Sefer Torah, and there's a divider, there's a wall. Amar lehu keman. He says, what are you doing having a Sefer Torah in your bedroom with a divider? You hold, who do you hold like? Rabbi Shua ben Levi? Rabbi Shua ben Levi? You hold like Rabbi Shua ben Levi, who says you need to have a divider? Emar damar Rabbi Shua ben Levi de leit le beta acharina. When did Rabbi Shua ben Levi say that you have to put a wall up if there's no other room that you could put the Sefer Torah in? More ha'it le beta acharina, but there's plenty of rooms in your house. What he's talking about is if you have a room with a Sefer Torah, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says you have to put a wall divider there. But if you have another room, take the Sefer Torah out of your bedroom. So he tells Mor bar Ravashi, why do you have a Sefer Torah in your room? Oh, you put a divider up. Hazak Baruch, you put a divider up. But you have other rooms. This doesn't belong in your bedroom. So more ha'it le beita charina, you have other rooms. Amarle, his response was, Lava da'atei. You're right. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that I'm not allowed to have it in my room if I have other rooms available. So you see here where there's some extra stringency when it comes to Sefer Torah. I want to see the topic of, does the footnote speak about this topic of other Svarim? I believe it does. I definitely saw it somewhere. I don't see it either. Here it is. No. Yes, look at footnote number 4. Okay, footnote in the art scroll on 26A1, footnote number 4. You could see, I'll just read it. Rabbi Shua ben Levi teaches that nothing less than a partition will serve to permit relations in a room containing a Torah scroll, and a double covering is not sufficient for a Torah. And he explains the Braita above, which permits double covering, does so only for a tefillin, but not for the Torah scroll that is mentioned there. One should be stringent and require a partition even for chumashim, scrolls containing only one of the Torah 5 books. But other holy books are like tefillin and maybe double wrapped. See Tosfot and Orach Chaim, but see Mishnah Berurah there and there. So and that which Rava permits a book cabinet draped with a cloak refers only to a cabinet containing only other holy books, but not to one containing a Sefer Torah scroll. So you see here, what they bring the explanation that there's different rules when it comes to a Sefer Torah and tefillin. Sefer Torah needs a full wall divider, or as who was it? Mor Zutra told Mor bar Ravashi, if you have another room, it needs to be out of the room altogether. But when it comes to tefillin, it's okay to be in the room as long as you have a double covering. And what we're learning is that books of Kedusha, like a Chumash or a Torah or a Gemara, these all have the same law as tefillin, which means you need to have double covering. So when can this be an issue? Let's say, for example, someone has a bedside table. It's very common to have a bedside table and very common to read in bed. People do it all the time. Before they go to sleep, they read in bed. So let's say someone, for example, wants to study Tanakh before he goes to bed, or read Torah before he goes to bed, or even read a Parsha pamphlet before he goes to bed, and just leaves it there. That's a problem. Why? Meaning it's a problem if it's exposed when he's having relations. So what should the person do? They should have a bedside table with a drawer, and when the person is done reading the book, put it in the drawer and then close it, no matter what. In the bedroom, a person shouldn't have Sfarim exposed. Yes?
Drawer's only one cup, isn't it? A drawer and a drape.
A drawer and a no, I think it's not a drawer and a drape, it's a shelf and a drape. But when you have a drawer, the door is like the drape. It's like closed off. So basically the drawer is like the drawer and the drape, the shelf and the drape. How it's like sealed. Right?
It's like a separate room.
It's like a separate thing. I believe so. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, that drawer is meant for your spawn. And it's a container, but it's just
No. There's
nothing else.
if you go to Wayfair and you search for the bedside table that's meant for covering Sfarim, what do you mean? What kind of a bedside table is meant for Sfarim? It's meant for a bedside table. Tefillin, you have a tefillin case. A drawer is a drawer. It's not a drawer for Sfarim. It's not like shaped in a 6x9 so you could fit in the slot of your Gemara. It's a drawer. Is that
Closet, clothes, and everything else? Is that appropriate or is it not?
so? As long as it's clean, you can keep Sfarim in there and close it off. Yeah. As long as it's clean. If someone has dirty stuff inside, like say they have a dirty laundry somewhere and it has like a smell, it's not appropriate for Sfarim. maybe it's not the best place to keep Sfarim. But yeah, look, what we're learning here is that a person in their bedroom, there's some kid, person has to have respect for Sfarim, Sifrei Kodesh. And that means that if he's going to be in a room where a person's going to be having relations with his wife afterwards, it's a problem. And therefore, they should have some sort of a double covering. And I think putting it in a drawer, putting it away is sufficient. That's what we're learning about the Glima and the Akamatra.
Rabbi, I have a quick question.
1 second, Andy, I'll come to you. Yes, go ahead. So tefillin, the requirement is bag within bag, as long as they're not both made specifically for tefillin. So usually we have our tefillin, they're already in one bag. You need to have another covering. So what's that other covering? Cabinet, bag, meaning a non-tefillin bag, blanket, pillowcase, suitcase, something like that. We're even learning about putting it under the bed, right? As long as it's done in a way of kedusha. Yes, Andy, and then I'll come to you. Yes, Andy, go ahead.
What about books that are like, I guess you call Jewish books, or let's say books on Musar, like character development, like not necessarily a Chumash, but gleanings of Torah inside of them.
I don't
Do
know
these
if
have to be like
I don't know
separate
if I
thing,
have
or just
I don't know if I have a simple answer to your question. If it's a Torah book, then it should not, then it's a problem. So for sure, Torah, Gemara, Chumash, Tanakh, Sfarim, for sure. Now your question is, what if it's like a contemporary, someone writing about the parasha? I would say it's a problem also. It's considered a problem. If it's something that wouldn't be able to be taken into the bathroom because it has Devarim Shebikdusha, it really should not be exposed either. Really any Torah book, even if it's a contemporary book that's quoting other things from Torah, it's going to be a problem. Yes, question?
It says in the footnote, I don't know if this is unnecessary, but it says in the footnote that one should be stringent and require a partition even for Chumashim or scrolls containing only one of the Torah's 5 books.
Yeah.
So if it's one, let's say it's one entire the book of Berachot, but minus one word, then it doesn't get a partition.
Well, talking about a scroll.
Is that the threshold?
I've never seen a scroll.
Would a siddur count as a
No,
Chumash?
a scroll is a parchment.
Oh, no.
It's not talking about the blue book that we read.
No, it's talking about a scroll. It says a scroll. A scroll. It's like a Megillat Esther.
Would it be? Is there a scroll of only book of Berachot?
That's what it's describing. It's saying
It has the whole Torah there.
yeah. If you have a Torah scroll, it's a problem. If you have a scroll and it's only 1/5 of the Torah, it's also a problem. It seems like they used to, I don't know, maybe they used to have them.
In the day, they probably had.
Yeah, scrolls containing, yeah. But
It's not.
what you're reading here is saying it's a problem. One should be stringent and require a partition even for Chumashim, parentheses, scrolls containing only one of the Torah's 5 books.
Is one of 5 books the threshold? What if it's less than 1 book, but it's still a Torah?
How is that possible?
Let's say it's the
Oh, you mean like a scroll with 1 parasha on it?
scroll one.
I don't know. Honestly, I've never seen this. I've never seen it's not
Scroll
yeah. I've never seen it. They used to have Sfarim that way, but I mean, look, yeah, what we're saying, practically speaking, I don't know about any of these things existing. A Sefer Torah shouldn't be in the room at all, unless you can't help it. And if you can't help it, there should be a wall divider, is what we're saying. And
much is fine. Like it's
correct. A book is okay as long as you have the double covering. Yeah, that's what's common. What's common is that if you're going to have books in your room, you should have a cover. Let's say if I have a bookshelf, some bookshelves, they close. Like, that's the same concept. You know what I'm talking about?
If I have like a bookshelf of all of our school shots and all of it, I should not be having relations to that room.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly right. If you have an open bookshelf that there's no extra covering, it's just the open bookshelf, then that's only one covering. It needs to be covered on top, which is what it says, some sort of a cloak or something. That way it would be okay. Otherwise, one should not have relations in that room.
Consider covering open.
That's the chidush of what he's saying. It's considered a kli b'toch kli, because it's covered. You're right that it's not fully.
closes, or in that case, needed be.
Let's see. Let's see. Da, 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 da.
Not saying I have like a dresser or something that I put my books in.
No, that's not what it's saying. No, a cloak draped over a cabinet in which holy books are kept is considered like a receptacle within a receptacle. Footnote 2. Because the cloak is not the usual covering for the books, the cloak is a valid covering even though it is merely draped over the cabinet and it is not wrapped underneath it. Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. So you're saying maybe it's not an open cabinet, maybe it's a closed cabinet. Okay, maybe.
Let's say I have a mamash shelf that's just like, it's just a bottom that I put the books on and I
So
throw like a carved drape over.
Yeah, I got your question. My impression is that what you're describing is exactly what the Gemara is talking about. The Gemara is talking about a shelf with something draped over it. That was my impression. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's talking about a closed cabinet with something draped on top of it, in which case what you're describing would still be problematic. I don't know. You have to look into that a little bit. Okay, so someone remind me to look into the question of a bookshelf, a closed bookshelf in the bedroom, what someone has to do. Is one covering enough, or are you even required? Now you're asking maybe you need two coverings. Yeah.
You would need both bookshelf and then.
Yeah, okay, it's a good question. I have to look into it. Good question. Anyone don't answer the question. I was gonna ask if anyone has a bookshelf in their bedrooms, but I'm not gonna ask. I'm not gonna ask.
Rabbi, do these same rules apply if you want to just like change your clothing in like the bedroom?
Okay, good question. Good question. Excellent question. Ronnie's asking, is it specific to having relations? Is it the act of relations, or is any form of being undressed in front of it a problem? Okay, add that to the list. You're taking a list of questions. Question number 2. Question number 1 is open bookshelf in the bedroom. What has to be done? 1 covering or 2? Question number 2, open bookshelf in the room. Can you change in your room, or do you have to go change somewhere else every time? Ronnie, excellent question. Being exposed in front of the Sfarim. Okay, I have to look into it. You see, it's probably best to just have a separate room for your Sfarim, but where it's common, like I said, is if someone is reading and they have it next to their bed. Okay, but really, part of the question is putting it within the drawer enough? I think it is, but let's see. Maybe add that question also. Question number 3, I have a lot of research to do here. Question number 3, putting it within your bedside table, is that considered 1 covering, or is that considered 2 coverings? Okay, we have some questions to look into. Nick, go ahead. Oh, I thought you had a question, Nick. No, okay, fine. Shalom Aleichem. Love you. Okay, I'm gonna share screen. Let's keep going. All right, going back to our Mishnah, gentlemen. I really want to finish the Gemara tonight, finish the Perek, so we have to put our foot on the gas. Let's hold off on questions unless it's critical. Okay, so let's try to make sure we finish the chapter tonight. Back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that a person cannot say Shema if he's in water that has a foul odor. And then the Gemara says that when he comes out, if there's a foul odor, he has to distance himself. So the Gemara asks, how far, the Mishnah asks rather, how far does he need to distance himself from the urine or from the excrement? Arba amot. The Mishnah responds, 4 amot is the amount that you have to go from. And we had a machloket, if it's 4 amot from the source, or is it 4 amot from where the smell ends? We had a machloket, but you have to go 4 amot away from where the excrement is, or from where the smell of the excrement ends off. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Schora, Amar Rav Huna, but he's going to qualify the statements. But Rava says, Lo shanu la'achorav. The 4 amot measurement only works if it's behind you, meaning you're walking forward. So you're praying eastward, there's excrement on the floor, so you go 4 amot toward the east, and you're going to be facing away from the excrement. Aval lefanav, but if it's in front of you, which means, for example, let's say you're praying east and you find, Yeah, let's say it's in front of you and there's no way for you to go east. You can't go east. Let's say it's on the edge of a river, or it's by a wall. You're praying east toward the kotel, and it's right there. 4 amot where? Where am I supposed to 4 amot back? I'm going to be staring at it. So aval lefanav, if it's in front of him, marchik melo enav, he needs to go so far back that he doesn't see it. So shalom neda. I'm just giving this example to understand it. Let's say this is the easternly wall. I'm praying toward the east. It's right there. Excrement's right there on the corner. I can't walk 4 amot in front of me. I mean, walking through the wall. So I have to walk backwards. But walking 4 amot backwards is not good because I could see it. How far back do you have to go? Until you can't see it anymore. Because it's right in front of you. You're going to pray right in front of you. You can't do that. Marchik melo einav v'chen tefillah. The same rule is for tefillah. Ini, is that so? V'amar Afram bar Papa, Amar Rav Chasta. Rav Chasta says, Omed Adam keneged bet hakiseh mitpalel. Unbelievable. Rav Chista says, what do you mean? You're allowed to stand right next to the toilet and pray. Wow. Yeah, I saw Joey do a double take. Like, what? This opinion of Chista says, hey, you can pray right next to the toilet. Huh? So the Gemara says, how is that possible? That's a toilet that doesn't have excrement in it. A clean toilet. The Gemara says, what? In it? Is that so? Rav Yosef bar Chanina, Rav Yosef taught us, a bathroom that prohibits you from praying right next to it, even if there's nothing in there, it's a problem. And when they say you can't pray in a bathhouse, even though there's no one in there in the moment. So why are you telling me that I'm allowed to pray right next to a toilet? I know it's a problem. We're talking about a new one. We're talking about a new toilet. Crazy example. A guy is building his house. He's building his new house, and as he's building his new house, they're putting in a new toilet. Never used before. There's no running water, so the workers didn't use it either. Okay? There's a brand new toilet. And it happens to be you want to pray. Am I allowed to pray in front of my toilet? Never been used. It hasn't been, what's it called? When someone uses something for the first time? Broken in. Christened. Is that what you said? Yeah. It hasn't been used yet. No one marked their territory yet. Am I allowed to pray there? So that's what his opinion is, that you're allowed to pray right in front of a toilet. How is that possible? Because it's never been used. That's the rule he's teaching you, that if it hasn't been used yet, then it doesn't have the status of being used. And even that's a machloket. And that is the case of Ravina. What was the question of Ravina? If someone designated a spot for the purpose of going to the bathroom, mahu, what's the rule? Yesh zimun or ein zimun? Is there this concept of designating a spot as a bathroom and designating is sufficient that it now prohibits you from praying there? Or ein zimun? Zimun means to designate it. Or designating it as a bathroom doesn't mean anything. Okay, today you call it a bathroom, but you haven't used it. Until you haven't used it, it doesn't have that status. But that's a question of Ravina. Ravina is talking about literally praying in that spot directly, but our case is whether you're allowed to pray by being able to see it if it hasn't been used yet. So let's just follow the flow here. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Following the flow, the Mishnah tells us that if you have excrement, you need to distance yourself 4 amot from it in order to pray. The Gemara says that's 4 amot if you're going forward. But going backward, 4 amot isn't enough. You have to go so far back that you can't see it. One opinion says that you're allowed to look at a bathroom and pray. You're allowed to see a bathroom and pray. Turns out that's talking about seeing a brand new bathroom that has never been broken in yet. It's never been used. Then yes, you're allowed to pray by looking at that toilet. You're allowed, meaning in front of, you're not praying to the toilet. You're praying with the toilet in front of you. As opposed to if there's actual excrement there, then you can't pray 5 amot away, 10 amot away, as long as you could see it.
Rabbi, the Gemara says here in the books that it's a latrine that was recently cleaned out. Are you using those terms in like the same, a cleaned out or a new one, or you mean it has to be a new one that's never been used?
It's only a new one. It says cleaned out.
In our books it says cleaned out.
Bechadati? Hold on.
Not yet been used.
Look at we are dealing with new latrines that have been designated for such use but have not been used yet. Footnote 11. Rachista means that one may pray facing an area designated as a latrine, even if it has not yet been used for this purpose. No, it hasn't been used yet. So there's a flow of the Gemara. The Gemara first thinks that it's clean, but the Gemara ends up by saying, no, it's something that has never been used yet. It's just a space. It's not really a toilet. I'm talking about a toilet, but they're not talking about a toilet. They're talking about a space that's been designated to use for a bathroom, but it hasn't been used yet. They wrote that this is bathroom. They said this is bathroom, but it hasn't been used for a bathroom yet. It's not really a toilet like a bowl. It's a construction site, exactly. Or this is the spot that they're going to use for the toilet. But at the end, the last line of the Gemara is talking about chalati. It has not yet been used at all. Let's finish up. Amar Rava. Anyone here Persian? Okay, let's just have the Persian compliment of the day. Rava's gonna say we have good bathrooms. Okay, Persian bathroom. If you want to see a bathroom, you go to King's Point. This is what it says. Amar Rava. Rava tells us, Hani batek hisai de parsae, the bathrooms of the Persians, afagav deit beutsoa, even though they have feces there, kstumin damu, they're considered sealed. The bathrooms of Persians don't have a status of bathroom because they have it in a very unique way. Let's talk about how Persians have their toilets. Unbelievable. We're talking about 2,000 years ago. Leave it to the Persians. Iranians are very smart people. Okay, they know how to make their toilets. What would they do? They would, in their homes or wherever it is, under the spot where they would squat and go to the bathroom, they would dig tunnels very, very, very deep on a slant so that when someone goes to the bathroom, immediately it goes away. And it gets almost as though they created some sort of plumbing, waterless plumbing, that with this sort of engineering is whenever a person would go to the bathroom, it would be on some sort of a diagonal, and everything would just get flown away without flushing with water. Let's see how they explain it. And I know this is how it is, but let's see how they explain it. Footnote 14. Footnote 14. The Persian latrines were deep burrows dug diagonally in the ground, so that excrement did not remain there, but rolled away down the burrow, 4 amot or more from a hole on top. The area on top, therefore, does not have the legal status of a bathroom. Okay? Then see the Chazon Ish, who discusses at length, but does not conclude whether modern bathrooms have the same leniencies as Persian bathrooms. So you see, the question is like this. This is really the question of this is the question that we've been dealing with. The Gemara tells us there's this rule of the Persian bathrooms. The rule of the Persian bathrooms is that since they had the engineering in a way that there would be a hole on a diagonal that it would just roll away, the bathroom never was stationary, meaning the excrement was never present. Therefore, this opinion says, they don't have a status of a bathroom. In which case, a person would be able to pray there, bring the tefillin there, be able to listen to a shiur on their phone there, bring a Torah scroll there, whatever you want. Because it doesn't have a status of a bathroom. Why? Because it never stays there. Now, the question is, what about our toilets? It's even better. You do a flush, it goes down, it gives you even a spritz of Kleenex, what's it called? Lysol. All of a sudden, the toilet becomes blue. Everything is fresh. This thing goes away. It's gone, never to be seen. Okay, very good. So there's different opinions. As I had mentioned, Rabbi Zion Abba Shaul says, yeah, it has the same status. And Rabbi Zion Abba Shaul would say that of the room of a bathroom, you would be allowed to study Torah there. You'd be allowed to stay by the sink while you're brushing your teeth and listen to the Berachot Torah, or while you're shaving, be able to listen to Torah. This is what Rabbi Zion Abba Shaul says. However, Rabbi Yosef and many others, they see the Chazon Ish, they quote, but I heard today Rabbi Elyashiv dealt with this. There's a big difference. What's the difference between our toilets and the Persian toilets? The difference is what Adam is saying. Exactly. Until you flush, it is staying there. Their toilets it never was there. The way it was set up is it would go into a hole and go into Gehinnom forever. It would just go. You would never see it. It would just go straight.
Without flushing.
Without flushing. They didn't have plumbing. but they had engineering.
Mohandes.
When they were all Mohandesa. Every single guy Iranian with a toilet was a Mohandes. They all knew how to do it, but they didn't have flushing. Our toilets have flushing, but until you flush, until you do something, it's there. Therefore, because of this, Rav Ovadia Yosef is strict, and as I mentioned, Rav Ben Chaim tells us that you could sort of in between. He says that if it's a bathroom proper, you can't do netilat yadayim there. You can't wash your hands to do netilat yadayim there. But Rabben Zion Abashol would say you are allowed to. So Rabben Chaim says it's like between Rav Ovadia Yosef that says it's a full-fledged bathroom. It's not a full-fledged bathroom in the sense that you could do netilat yadayim there, but you can't say bracha. So what do? If you can do netilat yadayim in your kitchen sink, you should. You're having a meal and you're going to kitchen sink, you should. Let's say for whatever reason you can't. Let's say there is no kitchen sink close by, or let's say it's closed off or it's being used or whatever it is, then one would be allowed to do netilat yadayim in the bathroom because you have Rabben Zion Abashol says that our toilets nowadays it could be a little more lenient, like these Persian toilets, but you can't say a bracha in there. So what would you do? Do your netilat yadayim in the bathroom, go outside of the bathroom with wet hands, say Asher Kiddushanim B'Sav Sion Netilat Yadayim with wet hands, dry your hands outside of the bathroom, and then you could go say Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. All right, so we need to finish this right now. It happens to be that this last Mishnah is something we've already seen. Full circle, full circle. Actually, it's not really full circle, but if you recall, at the beginning of this parak, we spoke about saying Shema when someone is an Avel or someone is an Onen. Misha Meito Mutal Lefanav. The name of the chapter is one whose dead relative, is lying there in front of him. We spoke about all of that. Then we got into the laws of a Baal Keri. Is a Baal Keri allowed to recite Shema or not? You guys remind me. Is a Baal Keri allowed to recite Shema? What is a Baal Keri? Someone who had a seminal discharge. That's right. Is he allowed to recite Shema? No. The answer is it was a machloket. Where Rabbi Yehuda told us he's allowed to. But the Chachamim tell us no, he's not allowed to until he goes to the mikveh. And then we had all different opinions, and this was called Takanat Ezra. Ezra Sofer did this so that you wouldn't have Chachamim being with their wives like roosters, being with them all the time. Okay? So now we're going to talk about this case, about let's say there's a Baal Keri that he has to go to the mikveh. What happens if the guy, before he became a Baal Keri, he already had to go to a mikveh for some greater purpose? Someone who's a Baal Keri can go to the mikveh right away. Someone who is a Zav, which means there's some sort of a irregular sickness, that he has some sort of an emission, but it's irregular. It's not a normal seminal emission. It's something else. That person is considered a Zav, and he can only go to the mikveh after 7 days. The same way a woman who's called a Zava, who has an irregular flow, can only go to the mikveh after 7 clean days. So what happens if someone is already in this status, a woman who's a Nida, or a woman who's a Zava, or a man who's a Zav, they're waiting 7 clean days, and then in the middle of this, if they go to the mikveh today, it doesn't help, because they have to wait 7 days, okay? I have to wait 7 days. After day 2, the guy has a seminal emission. Now he's a Baal Keri. Should he go to the mikveh while he's already in this greater status of Tumah? Do you say that, look, you're a Zav, nothing's going to help you right now. Going to the mikveh, you're not going to be pure because you have to wait 7 days, so don't even go for the Baal Keri? Or do you say, oh, Baal Keri is one thing, Zav is something else? The person became a Baal Keri while he's within some other form of Tumah, he still has to go to the mikveh. That's the question we're going to deal with right now in our Mishnah, and with that we will conclude our parak. Let's see it. Here we go. Mishnah. Zav, Shera'a Keri. Remember, a Zav is a man who has a seminal emission that is not normal. It's not a regular seminal emission, it's an irregular one, which renders him impure for 7 days. He has to count 7 clean days. Now he was a Zav, and within his Zav status, all of a sudden he had a seminal emission. Let's say between day 2, day 3, something happened, he had an emission. Similarly, a woman who is a Nida, during the 7 days, going to the mikveh doesn't help. She has to wait 7 days, and then she could go. But if she is a poletet shichat zera, as we spoke about, the same way how a man has a seminal emission is considered Baal Keri, a woman who has a seminal emission also is considered a Baal Keri. How can a woman have a seminal emission? The answer is from the day before. A man and woman have relations. and then the next day, she has some sort of semen pouring out of her, which is possible after the fact. Politit shichlat zera means that she has discharged of the Balkari, which is possible. So she'll have the status of Balkari. So similar concept. If a man is a zav, which means he has to count 7 clean days, and during that time he is a Balkari, or a woman is a nida, which means she has to wait 7 days, and in the middle she's poletet. She had relations before, and it came out now. It's possible. Or the third case is hamishameshet, a woman who was having relations, and after she had relations, then she became a nida. So she started off as a Balkari status because she had relations and had an emission. But before she could go to the mikveh, she became a nida. So all of these 3 cases, tzrichin tivila, they have to go to the mikveh for the Balkari aspect. Even though the guy has to go again in a few more days for the zav, or the woman has to go again in a few days for the nida, still, you became a Balkari. In the meantime, you want to say Shema? You want to pray? You want to learn Torah? You have to go to the mikveh. Rabbi Yehuda pater. Rabbi Yehuda says no, you don't have to. Rabbi Yehuda told us you never have to. Rabbi Yehuda says no, you don't have to. Ibayalahu. We have a question. What happens if it's the opposite order? We started off by saying if it's a zav, which means he needs to wait 7 days, and then in the middle of that process, on day 2, he had an emission. Okay, what happens if it's the opposite order? Balkari. First, he was a Balkari, in which case he would be required to go to the mikveh, and he's required to go to the mikveh. And then subsequently, before he got a chance to go to the mikveh, he became a zav, which sets him back another 7 days. In that case, does he have to go to the mikveh or not? So according to Rabbi Yehuda, in the first case, zav shira keri, you don't need to go. But what happens if the keri came first? Would Rabbi Yehuda require you to go then? So Baal Keri Shara Ziva Rabbi Yehuda Mahu Ki Patar Rabbi Yehuda Hata Bezav Shara Keri. Is it the case that Rabbi Yehuda said that a zav that became a Baal Keri doesn't need to go? Because initially when he became a Baal Keri, he was already a zav, which means it doesn't make sense for him to go to the mikveh. Now he's impure. Aval Baal Keri Shara Ziva. But if it were vice versa, if the order was reversed, first he became a Baal Keri, perhaps the mi'ikara bar tevilahu mechayav. Initially, he should have gone, so he became chayav. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda would say, and if he subsequently became zav, doesn't matter, he needs to go. Or dilma loshna, or maybe no matter what, once he becomes a zav, he's not required to go. Tashma, we learned in a braita, hamishameshet verata nida tzricha tevilah. Rabbi Yehuda poter. We have a case where first she had relations, then became a Baal Keri, subsequently became a nida. So you see, the Baal Keri came first. Tzricha tivila, the first opinion says she has to. Rabbi Yehuda says patur, she doesn't need to go. The order is first she had relations, then became a nida, which is the same as first he had relations and then became a zava. V'kapater Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda says doesn't need to go. Shema Mina, we learn from here that Rabbi Yehuda does not require a zav shira nida or a zav shira keri or a bal keri shira zav. Does not require. Rabbi Yehuda says doesn't need to go. Tane Rabbi Chia behedir. Rabbi Chia taught this explicitly. Balkeri shara ziva serich tefillah. Rabbi Yehuda poter, and he taught it explicitly. Okay, we don't need to delve into this anymore. We spoke about this at length. That a Balkeri, Rabbi Yehuda says, does not need to go to the mikveh for Shema Yisrael, and it doesn't matter if he became a Baal Keri and then became a Zav or a Zav and then became a Baal Keri. He doesn't need to go no matter what. Okay? Adran alach mishemeto ve'adrach alan. Okay, so just to conclude this chapter of Masechet Berachot, the third chapter of Masechet Berachot, I will say it's a very difficult chapter that is not fun. It's definitely not fun. I mean, it depends how much you like talking about flatulence and farting and things like that. Then it is fun. But we started off speaking about the laws of Avelut, Misha Metov Mutal Fanav, talking about that, a lot about Baal Keri, a lot about the bathroom, a lot about excrement over here, excrement over there, excrement inside of a glass, outside of the glass, under your bed, over your bed, 4 feet away, 4 amot away, in front of you, to the side of you. It has a smell, doesn't have a smell without the excrement. It's a very technical chapter, but Baruch Hashem, we did it. We did it, and not everyone can say they did it. Most people can't say that they finished this chapter. So we did. Baruch Hashem, that's our third chapter of Masechet Berachot that we completed. I will remind you that we started our shiur July 19, 2023. Not the shiur, Masechet Berachot. 2 years ago. 23. It's been 2 years. We are now coming off 2 years of Masechet Berachot. We just completed our 3rd chapter, which means at this rate we need about another 8 years to go. But hopefully, Hashem, we could, I don't know, maybe we could have shiur more than once a week or something. No, I'm kidding. We're up to we're about a little bit less than halfway through. At this pace, we're pacing at 5 years. We got to try to speed it up. But here's the good news. Are you ready? Chapter 4 of Masechet Berachot is complete opposite. It's something that they teach in many schools, many high schools. I remember we were talking about something once, and Elon said he remembered this from when he was in elementary school. I happen to know that I learned this myself, both in elementary school and in high school. People learn this about why, what is it about? It's about the times of Shema Yisrael in the morning, times of not Shema Yisrael, times of Amidah. The first 3 chapters of Berachot have to do with Shema Yisrael. Now, we're going to turn the page, no more Shema Yisrael, talking about Amidah, the times of Shacharit, times of Mincha, times of Arvit, what goes into the Amidah, a lot of fun stories, why we have tefillot, how they were established. And I will say that we are going to have some very fun, exciting, engaging, relevant, not agarata, no, relevant halacha that has to do with tefillah. There will be agarata also, but the topics are things that have to do with tefillah, extremely practical. And I would like to make sure that we answer practical questions about it as well, but very, very, very practical. So Be'ezrat Hashem, Mazal Tov to all of you guys. We finished our 3rd parak. Hopefully we're going to have a siyum of the 3rd parak. We should. Let's see. We'll either do it next week, or if people are away, we could do it in 2 weeks.
Bring wine?
Yeah, sure. We'll have meat, we'll have wine. And then everyone's going to be tasked with mentioning something about the bathroom, about something about everyone's going to say about their favorite part of the parak, or at least of the Masechet. Okay, so
2 hour speed of time.
yeah, maybe we should start increasing our shiur time. And in the spirit of that, I'm going to start us off. Open up the Gemaras one more time. Sorry. Chapter 4. Because we still have some time and we're never done. So we finished the 3rd chapter. Next time we learn, we will start from this Mishnah again. So that, because not everyone is here tonight, but I want us to get started with the chapter. Okay? Very famous Mishnah, 4th chapter. It's called Perek Tefilat HaShachar. Here we go. Are you ready? Up until now, we've been speaking about Shema Yisrael. Now we are transitioning and we are speaking about Amidah. Tefilat HaShachar, the Mishnah tells us, the time for Shacharit ad Chatzot is until midday, which means however much daylight hours you have, right in the middle. If you have a day that starts at 6 and ends at 6, Chatzot would be 12 noon. If it starts at 7 and ends at 6, so it would actually be 12:30 p.m. because you need to aim for the middle of the day. And I have a graphic I'll try to show you in a moment.
Oh, it's manu.
Correct, exactly. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad arba sha'ot. Rabbi Yehuda says no, it's not until the end of the 6th hour, which is the end of midday. It's the end of the 4th hour. Okay, Tefilat mincha. What is the end time for mincha? Ad ha'erev is until the evening, which we'll say simply means until sunset. Different opinions, but we'll say it means until sunset. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says ad plag mincha. No, it's until the time of plag mincha, which is 10, and it's an hour and a quarter before sunset. Okay, I'm going to show you a graphic in a second. You know what? Let's just pull it up. Let's see Rabbi Eli's charts. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, guys, you see this? This is going. Let's annotate it a little bit. Let's give you some red. This is going here clockwise. So this right here is sunrise. Sorry, that's sunrise. And this is 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. You see that? So according to, and this line right here it says chatzot. The chatzot means midday. So according to Tevilat HaShachar, the first opinion says ad chatzot. Is until chatzot, which means whatever time is sunrise, this line over here we'll call sunset. Whatever is right in the middle, the end of the 6th hour is right in the middle, it's called chatzot. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad arba shot. Rabbi Yehuda says until the end of the 4th hour, which means this is the
After sun.
4 hours after sunrise. Correct. Now, when we say an hour, again, we don't mean a 60-minute hour. We have a concept, as Rama said, it's a concept called sha'ot zemaniyot. What are sha'ot zemaniyot? They are translated as seasonal hours, because there will be some times of the year where there is 12 hours of sunlight. From sunrise to sunset, if sunrise is at 6 a.m., sunsets at 6 p.m.,
An hour is an hour.
then an hour is 60 minutes. A seasonal hour is 60 minutes. If sun rises at 5 a.m. and sun sets at 7 p.m., how long is the season?
15 hours of sun.
Each hour
Hour and 15 minutes.
is going to be 70 minutes, right? Why? Because each...
Do the calculation.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm annotating. Stop annotating for a second.
14 by 6.
What is all
Rabbi, if the shad zmaniyot of the day are different from the night, correct?
Yes, we're talking correct. It's going to be the inverse. That's right. Okay.
So day and night are the same time, 12 hours apart though, right?
Chatzot, because it's going to be right in the middle. That's correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Total sunlight. Okay, so here you go. If sunset is at 6 a.m., sunset is at 6 p.m., how many daylight, and it's important to know daylight minutes do you have?
60.
No. 12 times 60. You have 720. So a seasonal hour
60 minutes.
is this divided by 12. And you're going to get 60 minutes. Okay? Now, let's say 5 a.m. and sunset is at 7 p.m. So what happens here? How many daylight minutes do we have?
14 times 12.
You have 14 times 12. So you have 160. I'm just following. 14 times 60. You have 14 hours. That
12 minus 7.
say it again. Say it again. What do you mean? Hold on. I'm not following.
I'm saying it's a just to make all the formulas feed into each other, but it makes it more.
Oh, you're saying to do the form? Yeah. I know how to do that. No, it's fine. It's actually not so simple to work with numbers. Now, if I go at 6 a.m. to, let's say, 7 p.m., Rama, help me out here.
It's 13 hours times 60 minutes.
13 times 60, which means each seasonal hour is 65 minutes. Now, if I want to know what time the end of the 4th, let's just do this. According to Rabbi Yehuda, end of Shacharit is end of 4th hour. And then the second opinion says midday, chatzot. I'm just going to call it chatzot.
And then it's
So-
15 times 60, not 14 minutes. 13.
13 times 60.
Yeah, is that what we said?
That's what we said. Okay? It makes sense. Here you have 12 hours of sunlight, so each seasonal hour is 60 minutes. Here you have 14 hours, so it's 70. Here you have 13, so it's right in the middle, 65. What is the end of the 4th hour? Fill out my chart. 10 a.m. Simple enough. When is, in this first scenario, when is midday? 12 even. Very simple. Okay, so this is scenario 1. What is scenario 2? When is the end of the 4th hour? Which one?
10 minutes per each hour.
How did you get there?
Someone explain. How did he get 1040?
80 divided by 60 is 4 hours and 4 minutes.
Rama, it's each seasonal hour is how long? 70 minutes. So I want end of the fourth hour. So it's 5:40. The first hour is 5:40. Wait, hold on a second. 5:40 is the end of the, sorry, I need 70 minutes. So 6:10 is the end of the first hour. Hold on. 6:10. Look, end of the first hour, if I'm starting at 5 a.m., 70 minutes later is 6:10, 7:20, 8:30, 9:40. And what time is midday? Then I keep going. 10:50, 12. Why? How is that possible? Because you add an hour an hour before, an hour after, midday stays the same. If the sun rises an hour earlier and sun sets an hour later, midday is still the same, so it's still 12.
Let's say you're in the North.
All right, let's follow with the scenarios I have on the board. No, North Pole. Let's say you're in scenario 3. Scenario 3. What's the third case? Ramat, help us. What's the end of the fourth hour? Let's do it hour by hour. End of the first hour is
7:15. No,
Se-
7:05.
7:05. Then
7:05 it's 8:10.
8:10.
8:10 plus 65 is 9:15. And 9:15 plus 65 is 10:20.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
10:20.
10:20 a.m. Unbelievable.
Oh,
And then this is going to be 10:20, becomes 11:30. No, sorry. 11:25 and 12:30. Now, you know what's so cool about this is that sunrise can be at 6 a.m., but your latest time of Shema could either be at 10 or at 10:20, depending on what time sunset is. So Amidah. We're talking about Shacharit here. You're right.
Yeah.
And why? Because it depends on how many daylight hours are. Because however long daylight hours are is going to determine how long each hour is, which tells you how late the end of the fourth hour is. Okay? So this is our first Mishnah.
Not Shema.
Correct. Shema, we already said the latest time is either Hanetzach Hama or the end of the third hour. Amidah is going to be either Chatzot or the end of the fourth hour. Chachamim say at Chatzot, Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad Arba Shaot, until the end of the fourth hour. Correct. Well, we'll get into halacha later. But the first thing here is to get familiar and comfortable with the calculation. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let's say you have a business trip in northern Alaska.
Okay.
To the North Pole.
Sunrise.
The sun comes up at 4 a.m.
4
And
a.m.
the sun goes down at 10 p.m.
10 p.m. Okay.
And
So,
middle of June, right?
all right, very good. So we need to do 12 times, 60. How many hours do we have here? 60 times 18. So I have 1,080 daylight minutes, which means each seasonal hour is 90 minutes. So let's start. What's the end of the first hour?
5:30.
5:30.
7.
7.
8:30.
8:30.
And 10.
10 a.m. Pretty cool. It ends up being the same as a normal day. And what time is midday? 11:30. 1.
Not that much different.
For the Shachari time. It's not going to be that much different. Right? Why? I'll tell you why. Because if you're symmetrical, it's gonna be very similar. If you're going earlier and later, similar amounts, end of the midday is gonna be very similar. End of the fourth hour, it's gonna be pretty similar. The end of the fourth hour is not gonna change that much if you're symmetrical. The issue is like in the summertime.
Early and then early after sunrise, it'll be sunset.
that's how it works.
No, not always. Different times of the year it falls in, especially when you change the clock by an hour. Well, okay, last one, Rama's example.
Okay, you're in Paris. Yeah, 5 a.m. sunrise, 5 p.m. sunset.
Okay, this should be easy because you could just shift
Oh, it's the same
everything
thing.
back. It's the same as this. So you have this, you have this. So what's going to happen? It's going to be 9 a.m. and 11 a.m.
It's all gonna fall between 11 to 1.
Yeah.
You're never gonna have.
But this is important. This is important to be able to do the calculation. Yes, Richard. The word chatzot. So going back to this diagram here, chatzot is both this line, and it also happens to be the same as this line also, which is what Nick was saying. Nick, what were you saying about chatzot?
So yeah, the day and the night is 12 hours apart.
The midday and midnight is always going to be exact polar opposites. So daylight hours and night hours is going to be different. They're going to be the inverse because the two of them together have to be 24 hours. So if you have 14 hours of daylight, you're only going to have 10 hours of night, or vice versa. But the midpoints are always going to be the same. There is going to be exactly 12 hours apart. Okay, very good. We have a lot to discuss here, but this is the topic of the next Mishnah. Be'ezras Hashem, we'll pick up from it next time. Tefilat HaShachar at Chatzot. Rabbi Omer ad arba shaot. The concept of shaot zmaniyot. Be'ezras Hashem, we will discuss this at length next time, and Be'ezras Hashem, we will have a siyum for the first 3 chapters. Hazak Baruch. Hazak Baruch.
Hazak Baruch.
Take care. Have a good night, everyone.